Well, hi. I hope you had a good lunch. I lubricated my chair and tightened up all the bolts on it so it won't be screaming at us with squeaks and groans throughout the presentation. Hopefully that'll make it all a lot more comfortable for you. I know it will for me. Welcome to my underground bunker here in Traverse City. This is where the magic happens, where I tilt at windmills and go after the institutions of religion and politics. Whether I succeed or not, I guess, remains to be seen. But actually, it's my basement where I have my office, where I write. Today, I would like to talk about the flag pledge bill, which our wonderful legislature has presented us in recent weeks. At the time that I'm recording this, the governor has yet to weigh in. It's on his desk. He's got less than a week to veto it, or it goes into effect. I've certainly been lobbying him to veto it, as I think it's going to open up some cans of worms. I've tried to advise him that there could be a lot of litigation for schools if the law doesn't go down. And well, we'll be talking about that potential as this time goes on. I'm not a fan of the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think all of us share in concerns about the Under God clause, certainly, which renders it unconstitutional. That the absolute decision on that has not yet been made by the Supreme Court, who ducked on the matter when they had the chance in the Michael Newdow case, taking an easy way out based on custodial matters. That case was not entirely a loss for us, because one thing it helped to establish was that this is not going to be a matter of ceremonial deism. The reaction that took place, particularly when Newdow won in the lower courts, was that it upset a lot of people in the religious community. And in the way they reacted, particularly in Washington, it's going to be hard for them to claim that this is a matter of ceremonial deism, that it's trivial. So it'll be interesting, as cases do reach the Supreme Court someday, to see whether that shows up in some legal briefs. But certainly in our community, we see the constitutional questions related to that under God clause, and certainly do not like to see the Pledge of Allegiance being uttered in schools with that phrase in there. My concerns go beyond that. For a while, I used to say the pledge publicly when it was being recited, and when it got to the objectionable clause, I didn't say silent, I would say one nation, where you don't have to believe in a God indivisible. And I said it loud enough so that people near me would hear. With time, however, I began to ask myself, what the heck am I doing? Pledging allegiance to a flag. I know that flag means a lot to many people. It's an important symbol for our country, but it is just a symbol. It is not a matter of life and death. People fight for our country. I realize that all too well. My son is a Marine, fought in Fallujah during the Iraq War. I wasn't terribly supportive of that war, but I supported our men and women who felt that they should fight in that war. I certainly supported my son, who felt that he should serve his country there. But to fight and die for a flag, I know there are those who claim that many of our armed services people have done so. I don't think so. Anyone who would sacrifice their life for a flag is a fool. I'm not going to pledge allegiance to a flag. Now, whether we want to pledge allegiance to our country, that's a matter for each of us to decide. But pledging allegiance to a flag is something I will no longer do. I will not do it. But then we come to the question of the pledge in our school systems, whether it's mandated by a legislature or not. Whether or not the governor signs that bill or vetoes it. We have school systems right now who have voluntary pledge programs. I know that well. Should they be having those programs? A lot of them just have them at the elementary school level. It's a tradition. But I don't think it's a good tradition. I recited it when I was in elementary school. But why do we put kids through that exercise? I got my degree at Michigan State University in psychology. And one of the people I studied was Jean Piaget, a Swiss developmental psychologist. This man had enormous impact upon our world, and certainly the world of education. He probably had as much impact, certainly on elementary education and beyond, as anyone in modern times. He recognized that children, adolescents, went through a series of developmental stages, and they happened in a particular order. And each child experienced them at particular times, roughly at about the same age, but not exactly. They would occur within a certain age range, with each child a little bit different. But they would occur in the same sequence in every case. And he furthermore learned that there wasn't a whole lot you could do to accelerate the experiencing of these stages. They occur when they're going to occur. Each of us, within our genetic makeup, has sort of a program for when we will experience these stages. And certainly in experiments and studies of kids, they found that not much you can do. I mean, it's not like preparing kids for the SATs where you can help them study to do better at taking the exam. You can't do that with preparing them for these stages. These stages occur when they occur. And they will occur for each child slightly different times. Let me give you an example. A very young child will see a ball, and that ball exists in that child's mind for as long as the child can see the ball. If the ball is then hidden, the child no longer believes that that ball exists. If you produce the ball again, then the ball exists again. Hide the ball doesn't exist anymore. Later, the child reaches a stage of development where if you hide the ball, the child still realizes that the ball exists. And the child may well go looking for that ball. It may be behind another object, and the child can then go look behind that object and retrieve the ball. The existence, the concept of existence for that object persists in the child's mind even though the child can't see it. The child understands at that level. This is really important in understanding the wisdom or the lack thereof of reciting the pledge in elementary schools and beyond. Because abstract thinking does not come to kids, adolescents, until a fairly late age. Typically it's in the range of about 11 to 14, sometimes 16 for some kids. So that means the most advanced kids don't start thinking abstractly until about the age of 11. That's late elementary school for some. It depends on the school system and how they structure the grades. But most elementary kids are never going to be able to think abstractly. And that's what the Pledge of Allegiance is all about. It's all about abstract thinking. The concept of pledging your loyalty to your country, let alone to a flag, is very abstract. What does it mean to an elementary school child? Practically nothing. They might as well be reciting nonsense syllables. They could be holding their hand over their heart, looking at the flag, and saying nonsense, and it would probably mean just as much to them if the teacher at the front of the room was smiling and everyone else in the school was hearing the same thing over the intercom. It might even mean more to them if they were all singing O Susanna at the same time. At least they would have the warm fuzzies of feeling the music. The words themselves they don't understand for the most part, and they certainly don't understand the abstractions. Even into junior high school, many of the kids don't really understand what it's all about. They can't relate to it on a deep level. You know, in our state, in our country, we have this concept called the age of consent. And that is the age at which people can enter into legal contracts, binding contracts. Certainly in the state of Michigan, that age is 18. Before then, you have to have a parental signature to go into any legal agreement. Why do we do that? Because we understand that maturity-wise, understanding-wise, young people are vulnerable. They can be taken advantage of. They don't understand all the complexities. We understand that that's important, and they're buying an automobile. Most of them can't afford homes. We're not going to let them buy a vacuum cleaner on an installment plan without a parental signature. We don't let them join the armed forces without a signature. Why are we allowing people to drive this patriotic message into their brains under the age of consent? It's horrendous that we're doing it to elementary school students. And yet if you ask the people who pass these laws why they're doing it, it'll be expressed in terms of things like instilling patriotism. It isn't instilling. You have to be capable of having abstract reasoning in your arsenal of tools to be instilled, to have something instilled within you. It is indoctrination.